Hello, people. It is I, your good friend, Chad Marco. You know, we have quite a few new people here on the gaming channel. I got about 100 new subscribers ever since I dropped the ugly video game girls video. Welcome everyone. It's great to have you. Make sure you subscribe. You already did that. Make sure you like the video. And I want to do an update on the ugly video game girls video because that got quite a bit of traction, and it kind of started a significant discussion. And so I decided that I would reply to some of the comments that were posted, and we can kind of just have a civilized discussion about it. Well, it's gonna be pretty one-sided, but I was able to speak my piece. The people spoke. And so now I can respond to what you guys think. So, that's all great. And also, given that we got a significant amount of new people here, also leave some feedback as far as what type of content or videos you like to see on my gaming channel. And don't forget that I actually have a main channel called Chad Marco. You can subscribe there too, where I got vlogs and music and all that. But let's get right to it. So CNK 9822 says, this has to be the most childish video I've ever seen. Like, you are making such a it's a you kind of problem. Who the fuck cares, dude? Enjoy the gameplay. Horizon is a phenomenal game. I care. And a lot of other people care. I think that now look, if you don't care about what the characters look like in the video game, that's fine. But the fact is, throughout the history, well, not the history, but for the longest time in video games, the way characters look, their appearance, and particularly when it comes to girls, their sexiness and attractiveness, that's one of the selling points of these games. I mean, let's face reality for what it is. As human beings, we're sexual creatures. We like sex. We like sexy girls. We like sexy boys. Whatever you're into, that's something that's appealing to people. I think it's no different than what you see in any other sort of media. Whereas where you look at movies and whatnot, modeling, people like seeing pretty people. And the thing is, I'm not just adamantly against any game or anything really where the characters happen to be unconventional looking or unattractive. What bothers me is how this is done intentionally. And I know that it's done to cater and pander to a particular group of people. If I just happen to make a video game and all the characters are weirdo but ugly, right? Because you do have some games that have a very unique art style, where just look at a game like Psychonauts, for instance. That's a game where the art style is very unique. I wouldn't play that expecting sexy female characters or anything like that, right? And so it's not something that I see as a prerequisite for gaming, but it's something that I like. It's something that I enjoy. And I think that the reasoning behind doing away with it, that's what really bothers me. And so Stomp10 says, not every female character has to exist for the male gaze. Tanya has always been a black woman with ambiguous facial features, but now that she has a more black phenotype, everyone is calling her ugly. It's not a coincidence. It's anti-blackness. And see, I don't think that every female character has to be sexy. Again, my whole point with the video was pointing out how they are intentionally desexualizing female characters for what I just don't see to be good reason. Especially, and I just see Mortal Kombat as the perfect example, when they try to take this moral high ground about the appearance of the females in a game where people are ripping each other's faces off. It really just, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And like I said before, man, it's obvious that they're trying to cater to particular, but whatever. We've already been over that. I think when you talk about like black phenotype, I started looking up like beautiful African women after I had read this comment. And one thing that I saw and noticed is that you have many different looks and appearances for African women. And so I think, now I could be wrong, but I think that it's kind of, it's like when you look at white people, for instance, right? And because a lot of people say, oh, European beauty standards, but I can point out plenty of ugly ass white people, right? I'm saying is you got ugly people of every race. And I'm saying, as black people, have we made the mistake of associating less attractive black women as the example of what black beauty is? Because when I looked up beautiful African women, because this comment had made me think about, okay, well, what, why is Tanya like, why is Tanya, from a black perspective, or at least in your opinion, why would that be considered beautiful, right? Like, why are certain features associated with blackness when people in reality come in all different shapes and forms? It's like with black people, you might say we're known for having bigger lips in general, or bigger noses, this and that. But you can find white people who have thick lips. You can find white people who have big noses. So again, it's like, why is it so heavily associated with us to the point where we feel like that should be our beauty standard? And so I'm just saying, as an exercise, you can look up beautiful African women, and not all of them look like Tanya. Definitely they don't look like Tanya, but you can also find some that, again, they don't look like they're just copying European beauty standards as well. And so again, I'm just saying, like, what is the standard of what is beautiful for a black person or a white person or a Mexican individual in the first place? And so I'm gonna call you Queek. MK11 I could accept. It wasn't the greatest designs, but it was acceptable. MK1 is too much. Not gonna give them anything. Support for my wallet is finished. I commend you. Vote with your wallet. Stop supporting these games that do this dumb shit. Like, and again, like I said before, I'm not saying like just don't support any game that has ugly female characters. But I think when it's obvious that this is a developer that's going out of their way to make the women less attractive, that's what bothers me about it. So I commend you, because when that article first came out, where the developers were talking about how they intentionally made sure the girls weren't sexy, I made a decision right then and there. I'm not going to support them. I'm not buying none of the games. I'm not watching any. Dude, I don't even watch any Mortal Kombat content or videos on YouTube. The only shit I see is what's posted on V or 4chan or something like that. Like, I'm not, I just see all these bland ass female characters on V, right? So I made a decision long ago, because to me, that's just a level of ridiculousness that I don't want to support. So Firestone Grey Wolf says, doesn't bother me. People come in all shapes and sizes and looks. The real question is, why does it bother you? Because I like sexy women. I like sexy females with beautiful faces, big breasts, fat asses, hourglass shapes. Yes, women come in all different shapes and sizes. But what I want to see is women in all different types of attractive shapes and sizes. I mean, it's really that simple. But, and I'll say it again, it's not just like, oh, every girl has to have her cleavage out and booty shorts or something like that. It's how they explicitly go out of their way to make sure that the women are not attractive. That's the only thing about it. That's the only thing about it. And I think, and I mentioned this before, but I look at a character like Tifa as a prime example of what I was talking about with within the Final Fantasy VII remake. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks or what you believe. The simple fact is Tifa as a character was designed with the understanding that she was eye candy, that she was sex appeal, that young men would be drawn to and would like. And then you go and remake the game and you don't embrace a significant part of what that character was, which she was an attractive, sexy young lady with big breasts. She was a sexy woman, a sexy girl with big breasts. And the way I feel is just like I said before, we're sexual creatures. We like sex. We like attractive people. I don't see anything wrong or vulgar about embracing that aspect of who we are and putting that in your designs, whether it's movies or video games or anything like that. And but at the same time, I can also see it from the perspective of, you know, if you go overboard with it, it can make the viewer or who's ever playing the game not take the story as seriously. So I think it depends on the type of game that it is as well. Like I said, a game like Heavy Rain, I wouldn't go into that expecting girls with a big breast and leotards like Cammy or something like that. So it depends on the game and the tone of the game. But if I'm playing a game like Mortal Kombat or Final Fantasy or something like that, then I wouldn't be surprised to see attractive, sexy young ladies in the game. So Eat Wave says sexual liberation and prudery are cyclical. I should know how to pronounce that. Cultural phenomena. It was simply easier to advance the cycle by co-opting feminism to turn back what feminism itself had helped to legalize than it was to call sexual liberalism degeneracy like patriarchal religions have done for millennia. Andrea Dworkin was not wrong in her tactics so much as she was too early for it to work. If the women who fought court cases to allow titillating fare to be presented in media are still alive and well enough to raise objections when one calls their work the machinations of the patriarchy, the tactics has no hope of succeeding. So what you're saying is that one of the early goals of feminism was for women to be sexually liberated and to be able to express themselves sexually. And so we've kind of gone full circle to where now, but you know, when I look at it, you know, if you're saying what I think you're saying, where it's like, okay, we're women, and part of our feminist cause is that, you know, we want to be sexually liberated. We want to be free to express our sexuality. And then that moves forward. And then you look at an industry like video games that at one point, I'm not sure if I can say that now, but at one point was definitely male dominated. And so what you have is an industry where men are in control of how they design and what they put into the games. And so in a sense, they can take women and choose to represent them however they please. And so it's like, oh, we're men, we like sexy girls. Let's take that and put that into our games. Let's express that artistically. And then women see that and like, hold up. Wait a minute. Right. So it's like we want to be free to express that sexuality, but we don't want men to be able to take that and control that. But, you know, again, when it comes to video games, it's kind of a weird situation because everything that's created is sort of created artificially. You know, it's not like they have to take a woman or, you know, use her or manipulate her or exploit her. It's just something that you're free to do as an artist, as a designer, you know. But I would imagine that that's why it bothers some women, because it's men who are in control and in the driver's seat in terms of how they choose to represent women. Sub, thank you, Astrid Gato, even though I can't say your name. Your theory is basically correct. It started with feminism and quickly turned into the current LGBT movement we're seeing today. Their idea of LGBT acceptance is to destroy the very idea that women and femininity exist entirely. They're a cult, effectively. They have an agenda and they're executing it by spreading this sick ideology. They're trying to make people believe that asking women to be traditionally pretty is all kind of a ist, racist, transphobic, sexist, you name it, all to rewrite your beliefs. You know, I'm very afraid to tackle this particular comment. It's a little edgy, but yeah, that's definitely something that we're seeing now. And you know, I'm not explicitly against things like feminism or the LGBT movement and things like that. But it's obvious that these movements have gained a lot of traction and it's beginning to have more and more influence on different aspects of our society and especially the media, you know, in particular, right? So recently, if you guys notice, I've been uploading the Quarry playthrough, right? And I remember I turned the game on and I started playing it, and I was one of the first things I thought, I was like, I bet you this game has like some sort of LGBT representation, right? I knew it was there. I was just waiting for it, and then boom, it turns out that Dylan is gay, Ryan is bisexual, and this that. And again, cool, but it's funny because it's so prevalent that you can almost just predict it. You can just assume that it's going to be there, and you know it's going to be there. And that's how prevalent these ideas are sort of being inserted into, you know, video games and different types of media. And again, it is what it is. I'm not saying, hey, man, get rid of it. You know, it's the developer's choice as far as like how they choose to design their shit and what they want to put in it, you know. But me personally, I just find it unfortunate when it becomes the standard where every developer feels like they have to do the same thing. But when it gets to the point where every developer begins to feel like, okay, we got to have some type of LGBT representation just because. We can't have too many sexy girls because it'll upset the feminine. That's when it starts to bother me. You know, if when it becomes the new standard, that's what I don't like. Kota2373 says Mortal Kombat female characters now look like something from the multiple cheap ass MK clones in the 90s. You know, like stuff like Kasumi Ninja. I know exactly what you're talking about. That was on the Atari Jaguar. Shadow War of Secession and Tattoo Assassins. In those games, instead of hiring a couple of skilled martial artists to do their motion capture, they picked some randos from the streets or even make the developers that couldn't do a kick above waist height, so all the characters look generic and bland. And that's exactly what I see when I see these female characters. It's just like I said, it's like they just look stale because you can tell they're trying their best to make sure that they don't look too sexy. But I just think that when that's your goal, like it's when you look at the male and female form, and when you start talking about, you know, let me make a character that's cool, a character that stands out, especially when you're talking about a diverse cast of people of different shapes and sizes and fighting styles and things like that, but you limit yourself by saying, I can't make them too attractive, you know, that begins to greatly affect, you know, how creative you can be in terms of creating these characters. And when I look at the Mortal Kombat female characters, again, it's just like they just don't stand out. They just look like they look like NPCs that will be in the background somewhere. They don't have any pop. They don't have they just don't have the type of design that would make them memorable. You know, something that would just stay in your mind for years to come. It's just they're NPC tier designs. So motherfucker Joe Motherfucker Jones says, I don't mind gay and trans representation because they exist. They're real people. You feel me? I feel you. But don't deviate from the story by making their identity take over the plot. To make sure we get it that they're gay, like in The Last of Us, y'all really think Lim should be so damn focused on coming out and being accepted and whatever when there's a fucking apocalypse and fight for survival going on? Not the best example, but yeah. And I remember specific examples of when I saw like gay characters in games, like Reaver, who was bisexual in Fable 2. There's one of the characters, the guy with the red hair, I forgot his name, but one of the characters from Samurai Showdown is bisexual. But the thing is like using like him as an example, right? I forgot his name, but the only way you know that he is bisexual is that I think there's an ending or some type of dialogue where he talks about how he wants to go see a prostitute and he doesn't care if it's a male or a female. That's the only way you know that he was it basically, they didn't make a big deal about it. It's just like, it is what it is. And again, I think that we live in, right now, the trend is to, you know, have LGBT representation, but to also make it a big deal, to make a big show of it within the game. And cool. Fine, but the only thing that bothers me is how it's become so predictable and formulaic. It's cool that it's there, but I just don't like it from like the idea of developers feeling like it's a necessity to include it. If I'm writing a story and just from the origins of my mind I just happen to say, oh, you know, I want to have a gay character or that's something I want to put in there, fine. But I just get the sense that now developers feel obligated to do it. And to me, that's what makes it lame. It's cool if it's just something you genuinely want to do. If it's just like, I got an idea, you know, the character's going to be trans, fine, right? But I just feel like there is a force within the industry that has developers feeling like they have to do it. And that's the only thing that bothers me about it. It's not that it's there. It's just that it's becoming too predictable. Like, I know it's going to be there because developers are basically obligated to put some type of LGBT representation in there. This is a long one. Damn. Why did I save this? Arcadian, I had that Shiro Shug. I don't know. But I like you. They are making them ugly because you keep giving them money no matter what. So they listen to the assholes who whine. If you stop giving them money, they will have to compete for your dollar again and give you what you want. Stop giving them money until they give you what you want. If you are a gamer, I guarantee you have a massive backlog. You can wait a year or more to buy a game. And see, to be fair, that's exactly what I did. You know, I didn't stress myself out about needing to play the latest Mortal Kombat. I said, and ain't gonna lie, the games look good, right? The games look good. I went to a friend's house and the only reason I ended up playing it was because I went to somebody else's house. And they were kind of swapping out different fighting games. And I'm pretty much like the fighting game guy. So I had to bully everybody. That's the only time I ever played it, right? But the games are not bad, you know, but I'm just so bothered and really somewhat offended by the developers and how they feel the need to cater to, you know, these specific groups for reasons that don't even really make sense. And then also like when they expressed the reasoning behind it, it was really like, well, fuck you. So I'm like, okay, well, fuck me, fuck you. Right? I just won't buy your game. If you are a gamer, yeah, hell, just learn emulation and say fuck them, all till the market is marketing to you. It's clear they are marketing to others, so why reward them? Edit, Mai Shiranui. Mai is pretty much the most popular female fighter from King of Fighters. always beat Chun-Li. Then again, SNK needed some kind of win over Capcom at the time. Then Capcom came back hard with Cammy and Morgan and Felicia from Darkstalkers. Then Capcom just kept on rocking with Rainbow Mika Poison, but she was from Final Fight and no, not trans. There's a long story about idiots from Capcom USA. Elena, and then we got Tecmo's Ultimate Strike with Dead or Alive 2. The first was just a Virtua Fighter clone with jiggle physics. Also, Gyro Mark of the Wolves is a generational sequel to Fatal Fury, which in Japan is called Gyro Densetsu, aka Legend of the Hungry Wolf. And most of the characters are related to Fatal Fury characters in some way. Rock Howard is the son of Geese Howard, antagonist of early Fatal Fury game, who killed the Bogart brothers' father, and after Terry killed Geese, he raised Rock. Kevin Ryan is a distant relative to Blue Mary. Hoku Tomaru trained under Andy Bogart, who, by the way, my Shirainu was in love with. And there is the Kim brothers, who are sons of Kim Kapwan, etc. Garu Mark of the Wolves is one of the greatest fighters ever made. God bless those. Okay, but the main part that he said here that stood out when he pointed out the competition between Capcom and SNK with the female characters, right? Because I never looked at it that way. But when you compare them and you look at it, yeah, like Chun-Li was cute, but even like I said in the video, Chun-Li wasn't really overtly like super sexualized. But I mean, anybody who sees my sprites, I mean, she just got big, jiggling, sagging, G-cup, E-cup titties. Just, you know, so if you're looking at it like who has the best girl, oh, well, now you got to go for mine. But then Cammy had the leotard and the ass cheeks all out. And then you got Morgan. So I see exactly what he's saying there, where it's like, when you look at it, as developers, they were like, okay, this is something that the boys like. The boys like this. Let's do this some more. Let's put more sexy, attractive female characters in these games. And so Daniels 250 says it's probably two things from what I understand. It's more than just Anita Sarkeesian for point one. It's more of the Gamergate movement. Since then, the gaming industry started a shift where game journals and the media basically goes against the gamers themselves. And this is how propaganda works. If you say the same narrative for enough time, it becomes reality. And what I mean by that is that actually do believe this type of pandering of fake body positivity and toxic masculinity is what most people want out of their games, especially because most devs are now the people who believe in these ideologies. And I think I said something like that in the video where it's like, you know, if you don't cater to these people, it's not like there's going to be like some grave consequences, you know, like you're going to be lined up and shot or arrested. But it's one of those things where it's almost like with A Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy Krueger, how, you know, Freddy Krueger thrives on fear and people believing in him and thinking about him. But once people forget, he loses his power. I think that's kind of how a lot of this shit works, where it's like these developers, they don't really have to pander to a lot of these groups, you know, but I think that it's kind of gotten to a point where they might fear any sort of potential backlash and probably overestimate the severity of just choosing to design their games the way that they want to. He continues, if anyone's interested, look into BlackRock Company and its CEO, Larry Fink. He has a major stranglehold on the media in general, and TV, Hollywood, and Western game developers all bow down to his demands, which comes in the form of ESG ratings, which is point two. If you don't comply, not only you lose direct financial investment, but also, etc., blacklisted because you're going against the movement. Honestly, BlackRock probably has more power than the state itself, at least when talking about the entertainment industry. So this is where it gets real, right? This is where it becomes very problematic because, like, and this is all, you can look this up, look up ESG score. This is all very real. It's basically the West version of a social credit score. kind of like what you see, well, at least what I've heard being implemented in places like China, where they have like a social credit score where according to your behaviors, you'll be judged or rated a certain way. And I don't know exactly how it works, but when we look at it in the context of China, it's kind of seen as being draconian or authoritarian. But we have our own version of it with the ESG score, where it's like if you don't put what we want you to put in the media that you create, whether it's video games or movies, we're not going to back you. We're not going to invest in you. We're not going to give you money. And so that's really the biggest threat that developers and really any sort of big production company that is involved in the creation of media, this is the biggest threat to them in terms of their artistic freedom to design and make what they want and the type of messages and ideas they want to put into it. Because again, with this whole ESG score thing, it essentially is controlling the whatever type of agendas that they want or they believe should be in the media. It's really some scary shit. Like, and this isn't to say like, again, like, to bash the LGBT community or feminism or anything like that. But regardless of what you believe in and what you support, I think we all should be concerned when there are wealthy elites and people in these positions of power that are basically saying, you have to design your games, you have to make your movies the way we want you to. You put the agendas that we want you to put into these forms of media. You know, that is a scary level of control. And I think that we all should be worried about that. I know that some of what I say can seem kind of conspiratorial, but it's really all quite in the open. You just got to go after the information because mainstream media will never tell you these things for obvious reasons of going against their interests. And again, you can look it up. It's not a conspiracy. There are a lot of conspiracy shit that's flying around. You can literally look this up. This is 100% real. And I think a lot of people don't understand that really the power of money and how when you have so much money that you can make these million dollar investments in the companies and all they got to do is put a little propaganda here and promote an agenda there and they get 500, $1 million, $2 million. And like, that's a lot of power. And when you have the money to do that, you can control and influence populations. But now we're really going a little bit too far. This video was meant to be lighthearted and now look at us. So the enigmatic BM39 says, how exactly are women supposed to look within gaming? Are they supposed to look one way? I'll put it like this. They should look whatever your intention is for the game in terms of the tone and how you wish to express it. That's how they should look. And it's like the reason why I keep using Tifa from Final Fantasy VII as a prime example is because when you look at her character and you look at the game, you just know what it is. You know what she is. You know why they made her like that. It's to appeal to what guys like. Guys like attractive, beautiful, sexy girls. So we're going to put that in our game. The same way we like cool badasses with giant swords and gun blades and fireballs. Right? But you don't have to do that. At the same time, it's kind of like I can also look at the first Resident Evil game, right? Now, in the first Resident Evil game, you had a male protagonist and a female protagonist, Chris and Jill. Now, Jill is an attractive young lady, but she wasn't exactly sexualized in any way. She had on, they all kind of had on their own like unique Stars uniform. But she wasn't really sexualized. She had on baggy cargo, like military pants, shoulder pads, a shirt, a beret, gloves. Like she wasn't sexualized, you know. But if you don't know, there's a game called Chaos Break, right? And it's basically a Resident Evil ripoff that came out soon after the first Resident Evil. And the female character looks just like Jill, except she got on booty shorts, right? But you can compare the two and see that with Jill, or the overall tone of Resident Evil was meant to be, it's a goofy like B movie type experience, but overall the tone was meant to be, at least taken somewhat seriously. So if Jill was running around in booty shorts, you'd be like, wait a minute, what type of special ops? What type of special? So Jill's appearance in Resident Evil 1 fits the tone of the game perfectly. Really, her being in booty shorts and a bra with a machine gun would have changed the whole vibe. No, not the whole, but it would have. I think it would have an effect on how people perceived or took the tone of the game. I think people would have took it less seriously, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But you can tell that with Chaos Break, they went all in on trying to sexualize their female character to appeal to that aspect of what guys like. Again, sexy female video game characters. And you can look at both and accept them for what they are. But my point is, when you ask that question, it's not that they're supposed to look one way. It's that they should look however you need them to look according to what you're trying to do, right? And so then you might say, well, look, why are you mad at Mortal Kombat? It's their choice. That's the tone that they want. You're ripping people's faces. You're uppercutting people's heads up. So the reason why it bothers me with Mortal Kombat is because they explicitly went back. Like it's kind of like, imagine if they toned down the gore, for instance. Wouldn't people be bothered if Mortal Kombat said, you know what, this whole bloody, breaking bones, knocking heads off, ripping spinal columns out, ripping legs off and beating you to death. This is too vulgar. Let's dial it back. The fans would be upset. But you could look at violence and gore the same way you look at sexuality and sex in forms of media and video games and whatnot, right? Where, how violent is a game supposed to be, right? Because you have Mortal Kombat, but then you also have games like Mario or something where, there's action, but he's not like, there's not blood and gore. Mario isn't getting like blown up into a million pieces or anything like that. And so what I'm saying is, you could look at both the same way, violence and sex. How much violence is there supposed to be in the game? However much you want. How much sexuality and sex appeal should the girls have? However much you want. But I think that when you look at a game that has established a particular tone and they stray from it, yeah, people are going to be bothered. People are bothered by the female characters being desexualized intentionally for the same reasons people would be bothered by Mortal Kombat toning down the violence, because you've established that, hey, this is a violent game with sexy big titty ninja bitches. So I want my violence and I also want my big titties. I want them both. But again, if you create a game where that's not your calling card, that's not what people expect, that's an entirely different thing. People aren't going to think about it. I wouldn't play Dead Space expecting to see like big titty space babes or sexy space aliens or something like that, because that's not something that I associate with that franchise. So Adam the Game Boy says, you can't make those iconic larger than life characters everybody loves if you don't exaggerate and idealize. This is affecting male characters to an extent too. There's a lot more protagonists coming out that look like even scrawnier M&Ms. Nobody wants to see a cast that looks like them. Well, I'm pretty handsome and muscular, so. But I digress. They want to see characters they wish they were. it's no surprise even nerdy or loser characters like Spider-Man or most anime protagonists end up skinny ripped. Characters just aren't interesting if they aren't pushing themselves as far as possible. I remember that scene in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, the first one that came out in 2001. That scene when Peter Parker got his powers and he was looking in the mirror, and he's still a relatively small guy, but he had gained some muscle. And that scene is so cool because as the viewer, you can sort of self-insert, or at least you can imagine how he felt. You got these new powers, and then you look in the mirror and your chest is starting to stick out. You got biceps and a six pack, and it was subtle, but that scene is effective. It's still in my mind today, and that's exactly what this guy is talking about. Where it's like, people, that's just an aspect of media, movies, and video games that people love. When the protagonist, however way, whatever methods they had to, you can see that physically they are fit, they are beautiful, they are better. Just look at just throwing out another example. Look at a character like in Dragon Ball Z, right? When Vegeta turns into Super Vegeta, he basically got like 2 times bigger, right? He had humongous. That's cool. It's like, wow, whoa. Look at something like Sailor Moon, right? Where the girls in their normal, like, everyday outfits, they look like average, Japanese schoolgirls. Then they transform and they have on these like super sailor suits. And I mean, let's be honest, I know that it might be a little controversial to say this, given that, they were all teenagers. But the reality of, Sailor Moon is that, when they would go through that transformation, they would look more attractive. I wouldn't say they were like heavily sexualized, but it's undeniable that going from their everyday outfit to transforming into, their sailor mode or whatever, even when you look at the transformation, like there's like a shot of them like nude, but they don't show the nudity. It's like a silhouette of their bodies, and as they're transforming. But that's just another example, though, of how we associate beauty and attractiveness and fitness with a character being, like he said, larger than life. There's always been a certain degree of exaggeration and things. Oh God, another example. Look at Predator, right? The original Predator movie. When you had all these big buff guys in the jungle, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Jesse Ventura, you got all these big dudes with vests and tank tops on, short. Again, that's part. Now, it's crazy when you think about it, because I think people don't say it out loud. But part of what made that movie good, maybe in a subtle way, is just the fact that you have these awesome, badass soldiers in the jungle having to fight off, this big alien, this big alien nigga. I'm playing, but yeah, I mean, it's undeniable that this is just a part of not just our culture, but how media is designed in general. It's larger than life, exaggerated characters that the average person probably is not going to be able to emulate physically, in terms of height, in terms of muscle, in terms of breast size, facial symmetry and beauty, hips, hourglass shapes, V shapes, all that. So Kick-Ass 6414 says, serious question, as annoying as feminist insecurity projection is, why is it important for us to lust on fictional women? Well, I think that I thought about this and it hit me when I was on V. I was on I forgot who said it. And I forgot exactly how he said it. But basically what the conversation had turned into was that look at female video game characters as a whole, right? The most popular, iconic, memorable, beloved female video game characters, 90% of them are attractive. 90% of them are beautiful. They're not all heavily sexualized, but most of them ain't ugly. Most of them don't look like Tanya. They don't look like Tanya. They don't look like Fable Girl. They don't look like Deborah Wilson. No offense. But they don't. Most of the most popular, iconic, memorable, beloved female characters are attractive, are beautiful, are cute. Now, is that fair? Is that fair? Is that nice? Maybe not, but it is what it is. But see, this is my point though. As men, as guys, and we play video games, when we play video games and whatnot, really, the male characters don't have to be particularly attractive. You know, we just have to see them as being impressive. Maybe a character that can inspire us in a way, or simply a character that we can look at and say, damn, he's cool. I like that guy, you know, or I like that character. So when new games come out, you have an attachment to that character. You like that character. When the toys come out, let me buy that toy. You know, when the card game come out, let me buy them cards. When the shirt comes out, let me buy that shirt. You know, you gain an attachment to it. But going back, as men, what is gonna make us attached to a female character? Because let's just face it, for the most part, we're not gonna look at the female characters for inspiration. We're not going to look at the female, well, at least not the same sort of inspiration to get from, you know, the men, where it's like we might want to be as cool or as smart or as tough or as brave and courageous. I want to be as brave as Link or something like that. Typically, and this is just the reality of it, what makes us have an attachment to particular female characters is their beauty and their attractiveness. I mean, damn. So many times I've been on you know, different websites, especially places like, you know, 4chan and V. You will always find threads of guys talking about, like, just for instance, Persona, right? Persona always has a diverse cast of males and females. And you'll see so many people saying, oh, this is my favorite female character. She's my waifu. Oh, I love Mitsuru. I love, what's her name? Anne. I love Fuka. I love Aigis. You know, oh, that's my wife. I love, oh man, like right. And you see the same thing in anime. You see this in movies sometimes. But what I'm saying is that this is an aspect of video games and media that is a hook. It's something that people are drawn to. It's something that people become attached to. And it gives them reason to just, maybe not entirely, but a little bit more reason to buy that next game, to buy that t-shirt, you know, to buy the deluxe edition that costs just $10 more, right? It's the little things like that makes the gamers, that makes the viewers, that make the audience even more attached to these games. And so, you know, how important that is up to the individual to decide for themselves. But I can tell you right now, just as a simple fact, when we're talking about female video game characters female video game characters in general, I promise you, I know this, I guarantee the most popular female video game characters are at least attractive, cute, sexy, or pretty. And so they serve as an aspect, an asset of the game to make the player, to make the viewer more attached to the game, to the series, to the story, to the characters, and more likely to continue to buy in, to continue to buy merchandise. You know how much money people spend on those figurines? You ever seen those really well designed anime style figurines? Now, some of them are female anime characters, but he also has some for like video game characters. Nobody's buying Tanya. Nobody's buying Fable Girl. That black girl in the left hand, the lower left hand corner of the thumbnail, nobody's spending $400 on that. I promise you. And so you ask, why is it important? I can financially and from a fan base perspective, you can say that that's one of the most important reasons why I would say that it's something that developers should embrace. You know, again, given the tone of the game, but it's definitely not something to run away from when you look at how much money has been made off of men and probably even girls as well being attached and attracted to these characters enough to where they would buy their merchandise, where they would just like the game that much more that they would go ahead and buy. Again, now is hypothetical. Let's just say Persona 6 comes out and then they say we're going the Mortal Kombat route. All the girls but ugly. There are going to be guys who just say, I'm not buying the game. I don't give a, like, just being real. And so probably the most important aspect, the most important reason is that the simple truth is that attractive video game characters are appealing enough to where it's going to make developers more money depending on, you know, the game and the franchise and things like that. Poop Dragon says, ha! I think that's a great way to start a comment. Ha! It's like the guy we all at the table talking. This motherfucker get up, ha! I think women being sexualized is more of a critics conversation, had to do with the disproportionate amount of sexual violence targeted at women. Muscular men aren't the majority of the demographic of victims. There's been feminist movements based on that entirely. So addressing the himbo phenomenon as a comparison to the bimbo one is not really an equal social history. I do agree characters in general look bland lately. Even Nina Williams just looks horrible in 8, and I wish she was not a mom. However, I think these conversations could be navigating a bit better. Maybe checking in with feminine perspectives close to you like friends or other YouTubers could help. And you know, I'm all for that. In fact, you know, on my other channel, I just had an episode of my podcast where I interviewed 3 transsexuals and we had great civilized, friendly conversations about, you know, them being transsexual and the ins and outs of their lives and what they've been through and whatnot. But, you know, the whole thing got me thinking that, you know, I definitely want to have a show where I talk to, you know, maybe maybe like 3 or 4 girls from the internet, from 4chan or something like that, where I can, you know, we can have these, you know, talk about topics like these as well as others to get their perspective. But I think what you're saying in the first part of the comment though, is that maybe the way women are represented in the media could have an effect on sexual violence targeted at women. And so that might be a legitimate concern of feminists when it comes to how women are represented. And cool. Out of everybody who's criticized me thus far, that's probably the best. That's probably the best, most interesting criticism that I've gotten thus far. And that's definitely something that's worth talking about. I'd be open to talking about that with a feminist or just a phenomenon, a random girl from the internet. I don't know. But definitely an insightful and valuable comment. So the comparable zombie says, appreciating good looking women doesn't mean one is a coomer. Agreeing with the label is in the same group as saying sorry for doing nothing wrong. There are fine women who can be sexy and or modest, and anyone would want to talk to her. Well, you know, I'm comfortable with what I like and who I am. I like sexy, big titty, fat ass women. I'm not ashamed of it. You know, when I played Resident Evil 5, and I unlocked that Sheva costume where she got on the African tribe gear, right, with the bow and arrow, I clapped. Not literally, but I like that. You know, that's something that I embrace. That's something that I think is cool. I think it's cool when developers embrace, again, the character's attractiveness and sexiness. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. You know, I just think it comes down to the tone of the video game and how you're trying to set the vibe, because it's not always appropriate, you know. So I can understand that, but I think for a lot of games there's room for big titty bitches. I'm just saying, there's room there, or at least for like this is funny right here. I remember there's a Resident Evil game called Resident Evil Revelations, right? And there's a character named Jessica. And Jessica has on this outfit where it's like a spy, like a tight fitted spy outfit, right? And one of the legs are missing, like, right? So it's like her body is covered up except for one leg that's just exposed. And you know, she's sexy and pretty. And I forgot who said it, but I forgot who it was, but somebody said, why does her default outfit look like the sexy alternate outfit? Right? And in that particular instance, I would agree. I think that it stands out in the wrong way, given the tone of the game, that she's supposed to be like this serious biological warfare agent or something, and then she's dressed like she's about to go. She's dressed like she's about to go strip at the strip club. Now, it wasn't a big deal, but I think like that's just a good example of how, you know, it can be done unnecessarily. Right, where her being sexualized didn't really fit the context and the tone of what was going on in the game. If that was the alternate outfit, then it would have been whatever. You know, it's kind of like when you, going back to Resident Evil 5. Imagine if her tribal outfit was the default outfit. It would have definitely affected the tone and how the game felt with her being dressed like that. You wouldn't be able to take her as seriously. That's just the reality. But the same thing with Chris. Right, because he got some goofy ass outfits too. So it's not just a female thing. You know, if you give Chris a bear suit outfit, it's gonna change the tone and how the game is perceived by the player. Ninja Sword 2352 says, I love your video, brother. I love you too. And I love DOA 5 and 6 best games ever. And yes, women should be sexy as always. The most sexiest thing in a woman is them being girls. Even tomboys are cute. Just that female touch and nature they have on the video games in real life and character, it is attractive. Hopefully they keep making normal games again. See, I like this guy. This guy gets it. It's really just that simple though, man. It's nice seeing attractive, beautiful people. You know, that's just what, you know what? I was playing Street Fighter 6, just to kind of flip it a little bit, right? I was playing Street Fighter 6, and you know, in Street Fighter 6, Ken is aged a bit. He's homeless and shit, right? And so his default outfit, he got on like this hobo sweater coat, like red pants and a black shirt. He got like the 5 o'clock shadow beard growing in, and he just doesn't look cool. His default outfit is his old classic outfit, the red gi, no beard, and so he looks younger. And I was like, yo, Ken looks cool. Like I was like, yo, Ken looks cool again. I like, right? Like not in a I want to fuck him kind of way, but it was like, I think it's the same thing or similar as when you have attractive female characters where it's cool just in a different way. I much prefer Ken's default classic outfit because he just looks like a young, cool badass again, as opposed to a guy that would be in the soup kitchen or the homeless shelter. Ken just looks cooler as the young, fiery, hot, like Chad type guy. Like that's what makes him cool, or part of what makes him cool. He looks so much better in his classic outfit. But with like now Cammy is different because she's sexy in both of them, but the default, I mean not deep, but the classic is like on a different level because of the leotard. But I'm just saying that it's a phenomenon that's it's not just about the girls, you know, it's also about how cool the guys look too. I think, you know, somebody mentioned Nina Williams earlier. I always thought Steve Fox was a cool ass looking character. Like I love Steve Fox, the way he moves, and you know, and of course, you know, if Steve Fox was a fat dude, it wouldn't be the same. Right? He'd be cool in terms of like being able to box and all that, but visually, aesthetically, you know, I wouldn't be as, you know, attracted to him in terms of using him in the game. You know, the way he looks as well as the way he fights is part of what makes him appealing. So it's not just about making girls sexy. I think the guys looking cool too is also something that makes people want to use them. Phantom Zero says, no, it's just social engineering. The objective is obvious because media dictates trends and trends dictate behavior. So the objective is to change the standards of beauty and to force this into the heads of children and youth, because children are our future. Lowering the standards of beauty, fitness, and self-care would generate more health problems in people, both physically and mentally, which makes them weaker, dependent, and more obedient. And those are the key objectives of this process, to make weak, dependent, and obedient creatures. Another very important aspect of this diabolical agenda is demoralization. Beauty gives inspiration, motivation, strength, which is why it always has been idolized. So by removing beauty from society, they are making society more depressed, unhappy, and unhealthy. You know, one thing that I think of as you say that is how they have those, you know, there's been a lot of talk about these ads by, I guess, different companies trying to promote things where they've been using like these plus size models, right? I mean, obese women, really. They've been using obese women to, you know, model different clothing and things like that. And look, I'm not hating, make your money. If they want you as a fat woman, make your money. But what is that setting in terms of an example? You know, when other fat, overweight people see that and they might think, maybe I don't need to lose weight. Maybe I don't need to go to the gym. Maybe I don't need to eat healthier. You know, big is beautiful. You know, is that really a healthy attitude to, you know, try to spread and encourage amongst people in our society? You know, an attitude of being okay with your body not being in peak form, not being in shape, you know, being objectively in a state of fatassery. But let's continue. There is no reason to make people turn away from video games. That goes against their goals, since turning people into consumers is another good way to make them dependent, obedient, and weak. But ugliness has the benefit of demoralizing your subjects, so they have no problem sacrificing their business to achieve a greater goal. The people doing this are masters of psychology as their ancestors before them, and I study their methods. That's why I know. Sadly, most people have no idea of anything at all, And that's why they're always wondering why things are the way they are, always missing the mark and being led by the nose. Please send me your books. Whatever books you're reading, I want to read them. I want to understand this psychology. But I didn't look at it from this perspective. Maybe he's right. I'm not sure. But it's definitely a fresh perspective on it. You know, the whole demoralization thing where it's like you're seeing more ugliness in the world over here, over there, when you look up, when you look down. You know, and does that really have a significant effect on people's mood and state of being? But he's definitely right about one thing. Media dictates trends and trends dictate behavior. And that's why I'm so concerned about there being this wealthy, immensely wealthy group, organization that's passing out more money according to what they want the media to put in whatever it is they create. Because like he said, the media dictates the trends and the trends dictate behavior. Like, you know how many trends have been started from like rap videos or people watching music videos and their favorite artists and things like that. You know, anything like just I remember when Wiz Khalifa came out and he had the blind patch in his head, and then you started seeing more people do the blind patch in the head. You know, that's a good example of how media can influence people. I remember when I was growing up, I was listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony, and they had the long hair, the afros and the braids, and all of a sudden I'm growing my hair out. So that shit is real. Underworld's Dreams 9511 says, I noticed that with MK11, at least they walked back the no sexy ladies things a bit. They're not available all the time, but for the female ninjas, it is possible to get the classic costumes in the MK2 leotard version and the Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 with the crosshatch stitched bosom. It was the single selling point that made me finally pick up the Ultimate version with all the DLC when it was on sale for like $20. Had it been in there day one, I would have pre-ordered that bitch on principle alone. And see, it's a matter of principle. It's principle. That's what people don't get though. It's principle, because I think the reason why I feel insulted, because I just don't see any reason to shame people for their sexuality and the fact that they're attracted to these things in the first place. And I feel, especially when you read that article, when they first talked about that, I felt like they were attacking the people who took issue with it directly. And again, like I said, it's fuck me, fuck you. You know, it's the principle, because it's if you have a good reason for doing it, all good. But I knew that their reasoning was bullshit. I knew it didn't make sense. And so from there, yes, it becomes an issue of principle, because they're literally trying to shame you for wanting and being attracted to a particular type of woman. You know, it's why is it that all of a sudden women being sexy in video games is just this big deal? Yeah, we like sexy big titty bitches. So what? Damn. So Oxy Schmoxy says, beauty standards are very universal across people living in homogeneous culture, even between very different cultures that exchange influences, such as Asia and Europe. Beauty standards do not change abruptly, no matter how much money you put into forcing behavior. It's obvious that female characters in Western games are getting uglier every year. They are. This is not something that can be explained by personal preference, since games are originally intended for a wider audience. I think it's a case of activists hijacking game development companies to promote their political views and pander to fringe minorities by gaslighting the development team into thinking that the old practices are somehow bad. I mean, that's pretty much exactly what I'm seeing. It's a case of activists hijacking game development companies to promote their political views and pander to fringe minorities by gaslighting. I mean, that's pretty much exactly what I'm saying. You hit the nail on the head there, buddy. So D-Daddy Vacation, people didn't hate it over all that is over exaggerating just a small circle of people who don't like change. And that is fine. Everyone loves beauty, but one person's idea of beauty is different from another. So saying that Tanya is ugly is your opinion. It is. and the opinion of others who like the standard of beauty you like, while others actually love the new design and love the way she looks. So the question is, who is right? People don't have to like the design that is completely one's choice, but you not thinking something is beautiful doesn't just automatically make it ugly. And you know what? You're right. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But I'll say this, just like what the other guy said before, there is a somewhat established like beauty standard. And in fact, you could look at it, let's look at it in a different way, right? Now, you could say that, like, I could give you girl A and girl B, and then you could say, like, you or anyone else could say, I like girl A, and then I say, I like girl B, right? I find girl B attractive, you find girl A attractive. And so, in that sense, we're both entitled to our opinion and our preference. But then we can say, okay, but this girl is definitely overtly sexualized, like based on her outfit. Now, you can find her attractive or you can find her unattractive, but she's definitely sexualized. The girl in the leotard with the size E breasts and the Nicki Minaj butt is definitely more sexualized than the girl in the they got a hood on, is covered from head to toe, got a face mask on, flat, like that's something that we can agree on. And so, you know, you can make the argument that Tanya or some of these other female characters can be found attractive by yourself or other men, but I think that without a doubt, it's definitely true that a lot of these characters are being desexualized, where it's definitely true that the developers are not designing them with the intent of them being sexy and scantily clad, you know, when it comes to their clothing. So again, you can like her, you can find her attractive, which is fine. Somebody gonna like her. But, you know, they've definitely taken a different approach in terms of how sexy the characters are and whatnot. But, you know, there's another comment. I don't have it because I saw it late. And I'm not sure if it's true. But I saw somebody leave a comment that said that Anita Sarkeesian, like, was a consultant for the studio that developed Mortal Kombat. Now, I'm not sure if that's true, but I swear I seen somebody comment that, and I was like, damn. Because, you know, I knew about the whole Anita Sarkeesian thing, but I didn't know she was in direct conversations with NetherRealm Studios. So I just found it kind of funny that if that's true, how I really just hit it perfectly on the mark there, because I never forgot her and the big fuss she made about how girls were being represented in video games. And so I guess if you are trying to, you know, cater to these new feminist ideas regarding how women are portrayed in video games, I guess she will be the one to go to. Man, that was a lot of talking. But anyway, I really appreciate everybody's input and opinions and perspectives on this particular subject. You know, at the end of the day, it's video games. It's not the end of the world. It's no reason to be at each other's throats about how big a female video game character's titties are. It's something to discuss. It's something to talk about. It's something that's happening. And, you know, I don't feel any animosity towards any of the individuals who watched my video and disagree with me or saw me as immature or whatnot. That's fine. You know, this is a place of cool, gentleman-like discussion. But moving forward, you know, I definitely want to make more videos like that where, I talk about just different things going on in the video game industry and the direction of the video game industry and things like that. There's a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit going on that's not just about how ugly or not ugly the female video game characters are. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy that, and I hope to see you guys around as I make more content for you guys. And make sure, give me some ideas on the type of content you'd like to see me make on my gaming channel. And I'll see you guys later. Johnny.